A young man discovers he can time travel and modify the past, but any small change he makes changes his life completely. That's why today the butterfly effect. This is the story of Ashton Kutcher, who we're not quite sure why, but he's running from someone. There he writes that if anyone finds that paper, the plan didn't work and he's probably dead, but apparently it's the only way to save someone. Maybe this is not understood for now, and it doesn't matter much because the story takes us 13 years earlier with Ashton Kutcher as a boy. In this film, his name is Evan. The boy lives with his mother and she took him to school, but that same day the teacher tells her that when the children were asked to draw a picture of what they want to be when they grow up, her son Evan drew that. And the worst thing is that the boy doesn't remember having done it because apparently he has some disease that causes him to lose his memory on some occasions. The thing is that they take Evan to the hospital and the mother doesn't want him to end up like his father. So the doctor recommends that you write everything you do in a diary to improve your memory or something like that. Maybe this in the diary is very good. It doesn't work because at one point the baby grabs a knife and when the mother asks him what he was doing with it, he says he doesn't know. Now we meet George. He is the father of two brothers, friends of our character named Tommy Kiley, who he took to care for him during the day. The problem is that the guy is an alcoholic. He forces them to shoot a movie naked and Evan loses his memory of that moment again. Later the doctor says that Evan has nothing and that the blackouts are surely stress related, although the mother wonders the same thing as us.
What kind of stress can a 7-year-old have?
And this may be due to not having a father present, since the last time he lost his memory was when he was at a friend's father's house. So, your mother thinks it's best that she meet her father, whose name is Jason, and he is admitted to a mental hospital. Maybe the plan goes quite badly because when he enters the room, he loses his memory again, and when he regains it, the father is trying to murder him, making the doctors stop him, but unintentionally they end up killing him. 6 years later, Evan is smoking with Tommy, Kylie, and this guy named Lenny. When Tommy suddenly finds an explosive, Lenny gives it to him to explode in a neighbor's mailbox. But when it's about to explode, Evan loses his memory again. And he retrieves it while everyone is fleeing, with Lenny lying on the floor. The ambulance arrives. The mother questions Eva about the incident, but he recalls nothing. After that, Evan goes to a psychologist who takes him back to the time of the forest with his friends. Apparently, they are waiting for it to explode, then a car appears, he starts to have hallucinations, but it is not very clear what is happening, so he starts to bleed and ends up waking up. Another day, the mother takes the three friends to the movies and Eva asks them what happened to the mailbox, but Tommy doesn't want to tell her anything. In the middle of the movie, Keely gets up, Eva follows her, and they end up kissing, but at that moment, Tommy shows up and gets angry because he kissed his sister and it ends up fighting with a bigger guy who was in the theater. I do now. After all this, the mother tells Evan they're moving out. Couple of days later, Lenny has already returned to his house after the accident and the two friends go out for a walk with him, but while walking they see some smoke and realize that crazy Tommy wants to set fire to Eva's dog, and after hitting them both and just when he's about to burn the dog, Evan loses his memory again. When he wakes up from the blackout, they see that apparently Tommy set the bag with the dog on fire, and I'm not sure why he's crying. The important thing is that now it is. After this, Evan moved in with his mother, but not before telling Kylie that he will come back for her. 7 years later, our character is finally Ashton Kutcher. She goes to college, studies psychology and memory stuff, and lives with a kind of weird guy named Thumper. And that same day they're going to celebrate because Evan hasn't lost his memory in 7 years, so they're going to a bar. Evan meets a girl and when they get back to his room, she asks him to read one of her diaries to him. But he just starts reading the day Tommy set the dog on fire, and while Lee starts cutting himself off everything that happened there. Apparently he passed out, but this all seemed more than a dream, so he decides to go visit his childhood friend Lenny, who apparently is still building airplanes and sleeping in the same bed he did 7 years ago. There he is, about that day in the junkyard, but he tells you that he couldn't cut the rope, but then he says something else. Let it go, slit your mother's throat in her sleep, which is the same phrase Evan heard when she passed out. So there he realizes that it wasn't a dream, but that actually happened. After that he starts reading the newspapers and reads about Mailbox Day and discovers that apparently it didn't explode. He burned his belly with a cigarette. The woman of the house approached the mailbox and just then the rocket exploded. But the important thing is that when he wakes up, he realizes that he has the scar on his belly that he didn't have before, and although he wants to talk to Lenny again, his mother won't let him. Anyway, after that, he keeps reading the newspapers and starts reading the time that guy left him naked in front of a camera. But there it appears. Samper tells her that it must be for something that she doesn't remember that, and Eva decides not to read it. Instead, she decides to go visit Kaylee, who, although she told her that she was going to visit her again, she never returned in 7 years. After work, she meets again. She tells him that Tommy is working in a mechanic shop and that he no longer lives with his father. But there he tells her that some memories are coming back, and he asks her about that movie with his father. But she starts to get sad. He tells her that nothing is going to get better, and he gets angry because he never called her or looked for her again. So he ends up leaving, and when Evan returns to the room, he hears a message from Tommy, who is angry because after talking to him, his sister wouldn't stop crying and ended up committing suicide that same day. After the burial, Evan realizes that the scar did not appear out of nowhere, and if he managed to make it appear capable of erasing it, so he starts reading the diary from that time at Kylie's father's, and when George tells them to take off their clothes, Evan starts telling him that if he does all that, his daughter is going to end up in suicide and things like that, and finally he tells her to discipline her son Tommy and never touch Kylie again. After that, he gets up. He has like a strange medium vision, and apparently, thanks to that change, the timeline changed the present, and now they are boyfriends and live together. And when he asks her about that time with the video camera, she tells him that her father only used it for 1 day and then gave it away. The problem is that he is no longer Samper's friend. The teacher doesn't know him, and he is friends with the stupidest people in school. At night, he invites his girlfriend to dinner, but they all end when someone breaks his whole car, Eva, and although the rest think they are those from the other fraternity, inside the car there is a dog collar, and apparently that's why they realized that it was Tommy who got out of prison recently, because apparently the father never hit her and then he only hit Tommy, so he killed his dog and all those things that we already saw. And on top of that, when he is coming back, Tommy appears, who is jealous because he is successful and is also angry because he took his sister. So they start fighting, and I don't know how, but Evan ends up killing Tommy, an event that causes him to end up in jail, where everyone treats him badly. But at least his mother brings him a couple of diaries from when he was a boy. Problem is, the prison guys steal his diaries, and on top of that, they want to kill him that same night. So Evan starts talking to his cellmate, and to make him believe all this time travel, he reads a newspaper from when he had to draw when he was a boy. He gets on at that moment and sticks that in his hands to show the scar to his partner. So now the guy believes him, and that's why he's going to help him with the plan, which is to go talk to the guys who want to kill him, tell them that he's going to do whatever they want. Just at that moment, attack them, and with the help of his partner, travel in time. The day Tom killed his dog, there he grabs something to break the bag, gives it to Lenny to free the dog, and when Tommy is about to set it on fire, something strange happens, because Evan convinces Tommy not to kill the dog. He frees him, and right there, Lenny kills Tommy. So now in the present, Tommy died, Lenny went crazy, and Kenny left the house with someone weird. After that, Evan goes to see Lenny, who is in a loony bin, although nothing happens there, and Lenny is angry because he thinks he should be in his place. After that, he starts reading the time he saw his father. He asks him for information to correct things, but Jason tells him that he should not modify anything, and since the boy tells him that he is going to do it anyway, his father tries to murder him. Then she goes to ask about Kylie, but she never worked at that restaurant. She goes to find the father, gets the address, and now she lives in a horrible place. He's got a scar on his face from the day Tommy died, and now he's doing drugs. There he tells her all this about time travel, but she doesn't believe him at all and ends it. Fuck off. So now what happened that day with the mailbox is going to change. He prevents the woman from approaching, he catches and saves the woman, and the bomb explodes. But now, in the present, Evan has no hands. Apparently after that, he lost his arms. Lenny started dating Kylie, and Tommy is a good person, and since he saved the lady, he became religious. So one day in college, they start talking about how they would have been a nice couple and things like that, but now she's with Lenny and that's not going to change. So now Evan tries to kill himself, but Tommy saves him, tells him he can't give up, and after that he goes to see his mother. And apparently now he has lung cancer because he started smoking after the accident, and so now he's going to change everything so that his mother doesn't have cancer. So for that, to destroy the explosive, he travels one day where he was at his house, grabs a knife to break the explosive, but there his mother sees him and wakes up from time travel. He then travels back to the day of the video, grabs the explosive, but when he tries to explode it, he falls near Kylie and the girl dies. And from that now, he's the one in a mental hospital. She asks the doctor where her journals are, and he tells her there never was a journal, and it was all her imagination that she created in her mind to deal with the guilt of killing Kylie, because apparently everything He raised the alternate universes in his head, just like his father, who always asked him for a photo album, although he never had one. After that, he passes out. The doctor tells her that the damage to her head is irreparable, and Emma asks her mother to bring her some movies from when he was younger. So there he goes into the office and writes the message we saw at the beginning. He says if anyone finds this, his plan didn't work and he's already dead, but if he can go back to the beginning of all this, maybe he can save her. There he lights one of the tapes where he met Kaylee. But the first time they see him, he tells her that he hates her and that's why they never saw each other again, and the rest of the three friends were happy. Lenny doesn't know Kelly and apparently everything is fine, so they set fire to all the newspapers and movies. 8 years later, the mother is alive, he's a psychologist, and at one point he runs into Kelly, but instead of greeting her, he decides to continue with his normal life. That was the butterfly effect. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and activate the bell so you don't miss the next videos.